Hello, and welcome to Mochitsuki 2021. We're very excited to have you join us today, tuning in virtually from wherever you happen to be in the world. My name is Alton Takiyama-Chung, and I will be your MC. Now, on behalf of Mochitsuki Portland, Akemashite omedetou gozaimasu. Happy New Year! Now, 2021 marks the 25th anniversary of our annual Mochitsuki Festival right here in Portland. Now, although this year's Mochitsuki is a virtual event, we're still going to celebrate this historic milestone. For those of you who've been following along with us on our month-long virtual journey, thank you. For those of you who haven't, no worries. You can check out all of our videos at 2021mochipdx.org, or you can follow along on our Instagram. Now, we could not have done any of this without the leadership of Mochitsuki's presenting organizations. They are the Portland JSCL, Portland Taiko, Konko Church of Portland, Portland State University's Institute for Asian Studies, and the Japanese American Museum of Oregon. Now, last year, we had over 3,000 people attend the festival in person. I know, because I counted every single one of you guys. It was really hard because you guys kept moving around. Now, this year, we worked with nearly 50 different community partners to bring you at least one video every day this month. There are performances, cultural experiences, activities, food demonstrations, trivia, art, and this time next year, there may even be a pop quiz. Now, Mochitsuki is a non-profit event. Without an in-person festival, we don't have any ticket sales to rely on. Now, we know the times are tough right now, but if you're able to give even a small donation, it would be greatly appreciated. We have a goal of reaching 100 donors. Our donor box link is listed right below in the chat in the comments, right below my picture right here. Now, today, we have a very special program to mark the finality of this year's event. We will debut a historic video documenting 25 years of Mochitsuki right here in Portland, followed by a tribute to one of our dear leaders from the community and a valued member of the Mochitsuki Planning Committee, Valerie Otani. We will conclude with a musical performance and sing-along from Elena Moon Park, followed by a live Q&A with Elena and 3 Portland artists: spoken word artist Sachi Kaneko, visual artist Amiya Okamoto, and violinist Joe Kai. Now, to kick things off, we have from the Consular Office of Japan here in Portland a short welcome message from Consul General Masaki Shiga.
Hello everyone and Happy New Year! I'm Masaki Shiga, Consul General of Japan in Poland. It is my great pleasure to offer you these greetings on the last day of Mochitsuki 2021. First and foremost, I wish you all a happy, healthy, and safe New Year. And I would like to offer my congratulations to Mochitsuki on its 25th anniversary, and to express my sincere respect to all the Japanese American Citizen League members who have contributed to this event since the program was launched, as well as to all the members of Mochitsuki Executive Committee for their continued support. I understand that over time, Mochitsuki has only grown in popularity, and that the increased number of participants in recent years has required the event to be held at the larger venue of Portland State University. It is gratifying to know that because of your hard work, this grassroots event has been so successful and has grown stronger and stronger. This year, I was impressed by the creativity you have shown in developing these programs that can be done exclusively online, and I really enjoyed watching right from my own home. I've heard that every year a lot of Japanese and American students volunteer to help set up Mochitsuki. This year as well, I truly hope that many young people have had the chance to watch and participate in these events, and through doing so, learn about Japanese culture and the history of close relations between our countries. In this way, we can look forward to a bright future of friendship between Japan and the United States. The year 2021 will hopefully bring more opportunities for Japan to be a topic of conversation in Oregon, including the Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games, the 30th anniversary of the sister state partnership between Oregon and Toyama Prefecture, and the resumption of the postponed direct flight between Poland and Haneda. I also believe that 2021 will be a year of rebirth and regeneration of the business ties afflicted by the pandemic, and a year to restructure the flourishing exchange activities which help bring us close together. I look forward to working together with the organizers and participants of Mochitsuki 2021 to take advantage of the great opportunities this year will have to offer. Again, I wish you all good health and a fantastic new year in 2021.
Thank you, Council General Shiga, for your kind words and for all of your work in helping further Japan-Oregon relations. We also look forward to a bright future in 2021. Now, I'd like to take a moment to thank our wonderful sponsors. Today's program is largely funded by the National JCL Legacy Fund Grants Program. Thank you to the Japanese American Citizens League for your support of Portland's annual Mochitsuki. Our gold level sponsor is Owajimaya, the premier provider of fresh meats and produce and seafood and a large selection of Asian groceries and gifts. Our silver sponsors are the Japanese Ancestral Society, Nikkei Jinkai, the Japanese American Society of Oregon, the Japanese American Museum of Oregon, Portland JET Program Alumni Association, and of course, the Consular Office of Japan here in Portland. We also appreciate the in-kind donations from Varivas and Yuyaki Shinbun, Moonbridge Transcultural Music, and the YouTuber Yomu Yokai. And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you Kani Masuoka. She will give a brief introduction to our Mochitsuki 25th anniversary video. This will be followed by our tribute to a dear friend, Valerie Otani. We will begin our tribute with a reflection and poem by Anne Ishimaru, who along with Valerie was one of the founding members of Portland Taiko. Her presentation will be followed by a video remembrance of Valerie Otani. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a true gem of the Portland community, Kani Masuoka.
Hi, Alton. Hi, everyone. Akemashite omedetou gozaimasu. I hope everyone is having a great start to the new year. My name is Kani Masuoka, and I have had the great fortune of being involved with Mochitsuki from the start. My first job was to carry the steaming hot rice from the kitchen to the usu. In 25 years, I've seen Mochitsuki grow from a great house party in the basement of Oregon Buddhist Temple to a Jumbotron mega event at Portland State's Viking Pavilion. Let's take a look at Mochitsuki over 25 years.
In 1995, Portland Taiko founders Anne Ishimaru and Zach Semke attended a traditional mochi pounding in San Francisco. They were deeply impressed how a simple gathering to pound mochi had built such a strong sense of community and a connection to past cultural traditions. Portland needed its own Mochitsuki. With a heavy wooden mallet and mortar borrowed from Henry Ueno and a grant from the National Japanese American Citizens League, Portland Taiko organized their first Mochitsuki at the 1996 Japanese American Citizens League New Year's Party at Epworth Church. This was shortly followed by a public mochitsuki in the basement of the Oregon Buddhist Temple. Despite the low ceilings, community members were able to take turns swinging the heavy wooden mallet and pound the steamed sweet rice. Elders shared stories, Portland taiko drums played, and the room was so crowded that people waiting outside could only enter when someone left. It was clear that mochitsuki was a powerful way of drawing the community together. Over 25 years, mochitsuki has expanded and moved from the basement of the Oregon Buddhist Temple. First came the move to Multnomah Arts Center, and then Portland State University Ballroom, with the first vendor tables in 2000. Portland Community College in 2004 allowed space for an additional community stage. Gradually, the event outgrew even the Scottish Rite Center and the PSU Student Center, where the food demos became wildly popular. In 2019, Mochitsuki had moved to its current home at PSU's Viking Pavilion, which puts the performances front and center on stage, as well as on Jumbotron screens. Last year's Mochitsuki drew a crowd of more than 3,000 attendees, with 40 community organizations represented, and over 200 volunteers contributing to make the event possible. This year's Mochitsuki looks a little different, but our goal remains the same: keeping our traditions alive and vital by sharing rich cultural experiences. Like grains of rice to mochi, our community comes together.
What we are planning to do today for you is to share in the tradition of the Japanese community and the Japanese American community in this long-standing tradition of making mochi and eating it around the time of the New Year.
You start the New Year by coming together as a community and pounding this rice, and all the little individual grains are pounded together to make a unified whole. That's kind of a symbol of that kind of unity.
What you are participating here in today is a tradition that goes back hundreds or possibly thousands of years, and it's a very important one to our community, so we're glad you can join us. Mochi is a particular kind of rice that is highly polished. The husk is removed, and it's very sticky, very glutinous. Around the time of the New Year, it's steamed over a fire, and then when it's just the right consistency, it's put into a large container, either made of wood or stone, and then it's pounded with very large, heavy wooden mallets until it becomes just completely smooth and uniform, and it's very tasty and very sticky. In the old days in Japan, and it's still true today, obviously rice was the staple, and it was the most important thing for everyone's existence. And you could say that mochi is, in some ways, the highest form of that food, of that sustenance.
Akemashite omedetou gozaimasu. I'm Ann Ishimaru, and I'm a founding member and a former co-director of Portland Taiko. I'm honored today to introduce a video tribute to our dear friend Valerie Otani, who left us just last year. She, from the very beginning of Mochitsuki, was at the very center of the event and of the community that the event seeks to cultivate. Last year, as part of a contribution to a birthday book that Kenji, her son, put together for her, I wrote a series of brief poems for and about Valerie. As I told her at the time, it's not a surprise that so many of my memories of our times together come in strong visual images. But I'm not a visual artist, nor am I a poet, and there are times when words feel so wholly inadequate. But this poem is a memory of the first time that Zach and I met Valerie in 1994. We showed up in town with a single taiko and a whole lot of enthusiasm and energy to help create a group. And everyone we talked to said, you have to talk to Valerie. So we did. We tracked her down and we finally found her at a lively cultural arts event at Richmond Elementary. And this memory of this moment is so emblematic of the way that Valerie moved through the world, the way that she guided and nurtured us, the way that she calmed us in moments of stress or upset, the way that she created beauty in the everyday. She brought deep empathy to our struggles, she brought boundless exuberance to the stage, and she turned love and community, history and healing into legacies in our public spaces and in our hearts. This is called Center. When we first land in Portland, proverbially young and starry-eyed, they all smile and say knowingly, "You must talk to Valerie." And it becomes evident quickly, she is at the center of running raucous kids, laughing families, bustling activity, effusive colors of origami, culture, language, community. Mother, artist, teacher, yarn and glue, fusing glass and vision with people. When I think of what it means to be centered, not only grounded, but in an ongoing act of centering what matters, I imagine us bursting through the crowds with all the frantic energy of youth, to be drawn unerringly, like so many others, to the inviting calm of Valerie at the center. Please enjoy this video tribute to our dear friend, Valerie Otani.
Valerie Otani grew up in Berkeley, California, and attended Antioch College and San Francisco State University. She and Rick Spielman were married in 1973. Son Kenji was born in 1979, and 6 years later came Raph.
The family moved to Portland, Oregon in the late 1980s. Rick worked as professor of international affairs at Lewis and Clark College, and Valerie soon became an indispensable member of the artistic and activist communities in Portland.
Valerie sat on the board of the Oregon Nikkei Endowment, volunteered as an arts instructor for Richmond Elementary School's new Japanese magnet program,
and was the first director of Richmond's club summer school.
She invited Russell Baba and Jeannie Mercer of Shasta Taiko to teach Taiko fundamentals to Kurabu students and community members. In this way, Valerie was instrumental in forming the city's first Taiko group, Portland Taiko, in 1994.
Portland Taiko, with the help of some intrepid community members, developed the first Mochitsuki event in 1996, and Valerie was an integral part of Mochitsuki from the beginning. She performed, led cultural and food demonstrations, and worked as a core member of the Mochitsuki Planning Committee.
Over the last 25 years, Valerie performed with Portland Taiko, sharing her enthusiasm and joy with countless audience members.
She continued to work with the Oregon Nikkei Endowment and saw the establishment of the Japanese American Historical Plaza and the Oregon Nikkei Legacy Center.
She volunteered with the Fair Housing Council of Oregon and helped establish its bus tours, which showed the history of racism and discrimination within housing practices in Portland.
Valerie created new artworks in collaborations with Elizabeth, Andrea, and Portland-based artist Fernanda D'Agostino. She also worked on solo projects, from the whimsical bronze bollard sculptures along Southwest Main Street to the immense Tory gates at the Expo Center, which memorialize the unjust incarceration of Japanese Americans during World War II.
Valerie nurtured and commissioned many young artists as the City of Hillsborough's first public art program supervisor. She was recognized for her many achievements in the arts by the Regional Arts and Culture Council in 2018.
Valerie was diagnosed with cancer in 2019 and passed away in her home, surrounded by family and friends, in February 2020. She was a loving wife, mother, and grandmother. She brought us together, showed us beauty, and made the world a better place. Thank you, Valerie. We miss you.
A calm center of artistry, exuberance, and joy. Valerie Otani, you'll be greatly missed by the Mochitsuki family and the Portland community. Now, it is our turn to take you into our centers, to take you into our hearts, and to thank you for all that you've done to nourish and enrich us. Now, I've had the great good fortune to be invited to perform at Mochitsuki as a storyteller and as your MC for many years. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to gather as a community and to be part of the celebration again. Now, the first Mochitsuki to which I was invited to perform was when it was still being held back at the Portland Community College Sylvania campus. Now, the Performing Arts Center was where the headliners were performing. I was performing in an open commons area in a separate building on a little wooden stage with a curtain backdrop. Now, there's a big TV monitor behind the seats where my audiences were and where I could see what was happening on the main stage. Now, this is my last set. It was the end of the day and Portland Taiko was on the main stage. Now, halfway through my set, I glanced up and I could see that Portland Taiko was finished with their set, and Anne Ishimaru and her husband Zach were leading Portland Taiko off the stage with their drums and their cymbals. I continued on with my stories. And then I heard the drums. And they were getting closer. And they're getting louder. And louder. Pretty soon my audience was looking around to see what was going on. I continued on with my stories. And then the drums were inside the building and they were echoing in this large open space. I mean, no one could hear me, so I kind of just stopped and began looking around with everyone else, see what was going on. And then from around the corner of this curtain backdrop, here comes Ann and Zach and the rest of Portland Taiko, all banging away on their drums and crashing their cymbals and playing their flutes, all having a grand time and waving and smiling at me. I mean, they had decided to bring that whole crowd from that auditorium over to my little performance space. I mean, I was probably one of the last things going on that day. I probably had this deer in the headlights look with this rictus of a smile stuck on my face. I mean, They finished, everyone applauded, and they all then turned and looked at me. I continued and finished my stories. I mean, we all had a big laugh of that. But that was my introduction to Mochitsuki. We're not going to do any of that to our headliners today. Elena Moon Park is a musician, an educator, and producer living in Brooklyn, New York. She's a freelance violinist and a multi-instrumentalist in New York City, specializing in contemporary, classical, and family music. She has performed in stages ranging from Carnegie Hall and Lincoln Center in New York City to South Bank Center in London to the Melbourne International Arts Festival. She is also the co-artistic director of the Brooklyn-based arts organization Found Sound Nation, which uses collaborative music creations to connect people across cultural divides. Elena and her friends are performing a short series of songs from Korea and Japan and China to help celebrate the new year. She learned these songs from her family and friends, and they carry a strong memory of childhood for her. Now, viewers of all ages are encouraged to sing and to dance along at home. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Elena Moon Park.
Hello everybody, my name is Elena Moon Park. I'm coming to you from my apartment in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm so excited and honored to have been asked by the Mochitsuki Festival and by Win to come and play some music for you and with you today. I hope you'll sing and dance along, and thank you for this great celebration of the new year. So again, my name is Elena. I'm a musician based in Brooklyn, New York, and I've been playing a lot of different kinds of music for a long time. But one of my favorite things to do is to play music for families, all ages music that people young and old can enjoy together. And in the last 8 years, I've specialized in reimagined folk and children's music from all over East and Southeast Asia. I'm originally from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, but my parents both immigrated to this country from Korea. And I've been having an amazing time learning more about the culture and music and traditions of Korea through learning about family music and then also music from all over East Asia. So I'm thrilled to sing a couple of those songs for you today, and a huge thank you again for Mochitsuki Festival for having me and asking me to help celebrate the new year, which is really my favorite time of the year. Time for new beginnings, a time to refresh, and hopefully we'll all have a little bit of a new era coming to us soon. So thank you again, and let's get right down to singing some songs. I'm gonna start with a Korean New Year song called Seolnal, and Seolnal just means New Year in Korean. And this song is kind of like it's a good song to warm up our voices. And I would love for everybody to sing along. So I'll teach you the chorus of the song. You just have to know the word Seolnal. Seolnal, let's try it again. And the last line is Seolnal은 좋아요, which just means I like New Year's. So let's try that. Seolnal은 좋아요. Perfect. And that's the chorus of the song, and we sing it, so I'll share with you how it sounds when we sing it. It goes like this. 설날, 설날, 설날은 좋아요. Can we try that together? 설날, 설날, 설날은 좋아요. Perfect. That's great. So I have my guitar here, and so I have my trusty tambourine that I can play with my foot. And this song is great for hand clapping or swaying your arms, but definitely singing along to the chorus. And the song just talks about all the things we do to get ready for the New Year's, about the birds singing outside, about the clothes we wear, bowing to our mother and father, and enjoying each other's company. So this is Seolnal. God 집같이 설날은 어저께고요. 우리 설날은 오늘이래요. 꼬운 댕기도 내가 드리고 새로 사온 신발도 내가 신어요. All together. 설날은 좋아요. 설날은 좋아요. 우리 언니 저고리 너랑 저고리 우리 동생 저고리 색동 저고리 아버지와 어머니 호사하시고 우리 둘의 졸받기 좋아하세요. Alright. 설날은 좋아요. 설날은 좋아요. One more time. 설날은 좋아요. 설날은 좋아요. All right. Woo. I hope you sang along at home. That was the Korean New Year's song, 설날. Moving right along. Next up, I would like to invite a special guest to join me, Miss Akiko Hiroshima.
Hi.
And Akiko is the reason I think I'm connected to WIN and to the Mochitsuki Festival, so I'm very happy to invite her on here to join me for a song, Soranbushi. So this song, many of you will probably know, it's a song that was sung in the northern seas of Japan, and the story is that it's sung on fishing boats, so that when we're working on the boats, you'd have a song to sing so you could work together. And there are a couple of dance moves. Actually, I should show that to you first. Dance moves that you can do along with this song. So maybe Akiko will help me show them. But it's a fishing song, so first one of the moves is to pull the rope like this. Ha. Ha. You could do it this side too. Ha. Ha. Pull the rope. And the other dance move you could do is lifting up the basket of fish and throwing it over your shoulder. Basket of fish, throwing it over your shoulder. Like that. All right. Maybe Akiko's doing this better than me.
Oh, yes.
So very highly encouraging you to dance to this song, of course. And then you can also participate by singing some responses.
Oh, yes.
So if Akiko sings a line, Yaren soran, 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 we respond by saying, hi, hi. Can we try that together?
Yes.
Hi, hi,
hi.
And it's got to come from your gut, come from very deep within you. And you're just saying, oh yeah, you're just reinforcing what Akiko is saying in the song.
Oh yeah.
And then at the end of the song, she's going to, not the end of the song, but end of each verse, she's going to say, dokkoisho, dokkoisho. And we can respond the same way by saying, dokkoisho, dokkoisho. Let's try that one more time. Dokkoisho, dokkoisho. Perfect. And then at some point in the song, she'll continue saying, dokkoisho. Maybe she might say, soran, soran. And we can just follow her and yell those things back, and we're all working and dancing and playing together. Sound good?
Yes.
So this is Soranbushi. And before we start, I thought we could transport ourselves to the seas of northern Japan. Let's close our eyes. Imagine that we're there in the salty air and get in the mood for the song. Here we go. Yaren soran, 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 soran. When we hear the jabbering of the seagulls in the ocean breeze, We know we'll hold on to that fishing life of the high seas. Yasaen yasa no dokoisho. Yaren soran, 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 soran. Hai, hai. Nishin kitaka to kamome ni toeba. Watashi wa tatsutori nami ni kikechoi. Yasae en yasa no dokoisho. Ah, dokoisho, dokoisho. Ah, dokoisho, dokoisho. All right. That is Akiko Hiroshima singing Soran Bushi. Thank you so much, Akiko. Woo. So let's stick in Japan for the next song and go to a fun kids song. I love this song so much because it's kind of nonsensical. Nobody really knows what it's about, which is my favorite kind of song. It's called Zui Zui Zukkorobashi.
Yes.
And some of you might know this song, but some of you might know that it accompanies a game that kids can play with their hands. We made up another kind of game, like a hand clapping game, to go along with the song. So a couple of things about the song. No one knows what's really going on, but at some point a rice bowl breaks and the mother wants to know who broke the rice bowl and the father wants to know who broke the rice bowl. Nobody knows. And also at some other point there's a mouse scurrying around and the mouse goes choo 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 in the middle of the song. So these are things to know about the song. And when you hear the choo choo choo, the hand game changes a little bit. So I'm going to teach you the hand clapping game. It's a good time to find a partner if you have a parent or sibling in the house that might want to partner up with you to play the hand clapping game. But it just goes like this. It goes zui zui, so clap and you slap the other opposite hand of your partner. Zukkorobashi, go mamiso zui. So that's the whole pattern. 1, 1, slap, clap, clap, high 10. Perfect. So you do that for the whole rhyme. So it goes zui zui zukkorobashi goma misu zui chatsubone owarete topping chan nuketara don dokusho tawaran no netsumi ga komme kutte chu. And when you hear the word chu, we're going to do 3 more high tens. Chu, chu, chu. That's the sound of the mouse. And then the rest of the song is the same pattern over and over again. Otto-san ga yonde mo, oku-san ga yonde mo, ikiku na shiyo. Idon no mawari de ochaban kaita no dare. Just like that. So you just keep doing this except when you hear the word chu, and then you do 3 high tens. You got it?
Yes.
Hopefully Akiko will help keep the hand clapping going. And so find your partner. We're going to start the song off, slowly to get the hang of it, and it might get a little bit faster as we go along. And I also want to invite my friend Domenica Fossati, wonderful flute player who plays in my band, to join us on this one. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Get those hand claps warmed up. Here we go. Zui zui zukurubashi goma misu zui. Chatsubo ni owarete topping shan nuketara don dokusho. Tawaran no netsumi ga komme kutte chu. Chu chu chu. Otto-san ga yonde mo, okko-san ga yonde mo, ikiku na shiyo. Idon no mawari de yochuban kaita no dare. All right, keep it going. Woo. Here we go again.
ついついつっころばしごまみそつい茶壺に追われてとっぴんしゃん抜けたらどんどこしょたわらのネズミがとめくってチューチューチューチューお父さんが呼んでもおっかさんが呼んでもいきっこなしよ井戸の周りでお茶碗書いたのだ
Okay, so you got it? Let's try one more time and maybe we'll speed it up a little bit. Ready? And... Fun hand clapping game. And thank you all for joining us one more time. We have one more song and one more New Year's song, actually. So a huge thank you again to the festival and to Win for inviting us to play. And we're going to close it out with a brand new song to me, even though it's a very well-known old song called Gongshi Gongshi, which is another congratulations New Year's song from China. So, Gongshi Gongshi. You can learn, the chorus is very easy. You just say Gongshi 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 Niya. Can we say that together? Gongshi 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 Niya. Perfect. And then in the English verse, I say congratulations, and you can respond Gongshi Gongshi. So let's try that. Congratulations.
Gongshi Gongshi.
And what's fun is you can use your hands and just throw them up in the air when you're saying it. Congratulations. Gongxi, gongxi. Perfect. All right. And in the gongxi, gongxi, gongxi niya, you can shake people's hands. Gongxi, gongxi, gongxi niya, or just give them a high five or a fist bump.
I like that.
All right, so let's try gongxi, gongxi. Here we go. All right, here's English. Ready? People wandering on the street will tell each other when they meet, congratulations. Gongxi, gongxi. Congratulations. Gongxi, gongxi. Congratulations. Gongxi, gongxi. Congratulations. Gongxi, gongxi. All right, let's bring this up. Whoa. 冬天一早听到真是好的消息，温暖的春风就要吹醒大地。恭喜恭喜恭喜你呀！恭喜恭喜恭喜你！恭喜恭喜恭喜你呀！恭喜恭喜恭喜你！ Done. Good news has come. A warm breeze wakes the earth and sun. Congratulations. Gongxi, gongxi. Congratulations. Gongxi, gongxi. Congratulations. Gongxi, gongxi. Congratulations. Gongxi, gongxi. Horns everywhere. Yay!
New York!
Thank you so much again to Akiko and to Domenica and to Win and the Mochitsuki Festival for inviting us. And a very, very happy New Year to all of you. Thanks so much.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Hi, hi. Hey, Dokusho, Dokusho. Thank you, Elena, Akiko, and Domenica. Wow, what a performance. This has been a great way to ring in 2021 and celebrate the new year. Now, we've got a special treat for you to close out our show today. We have a live Q&A session with 4 Asian American artists, including Elena Moon Park, all the way from Brooklyn, New York. Now, I'll be handing things over to Chris and Amanda from the Portland chapter of the JACL, the Japanese American Citizens League. Over to you, Chris and Amanda.
Thanks, Alton. My name is Christopher Lee, and I'm one of the co-presidents of Portland JACL. I remember going to the first Mochitsuki at Oregon Buddhist Temple as a kid. It was clearly a foundational experience for me, as I've been pounding mochi with the Tsukikai for over 10 years. What I didn't know then was that this was a JACL legacy grant that helped make the early years of Mochitsuki possible. Now, 25 years later, here we are with a very different and much larger event, and virtual this year. Thanks to another legacy grant, we were able to bring you amazing performances from Elena and the following panel. We appreciate the continued support from JAC National. Even with the legacy grant and support from sponsors, we are still going to lose money on Mochitsuki this year. If you're able to give a donation in any amount, it would be greatly appreciated. The donor box link is in the chat on the mochipdx.org website. We'll be back next year, and we promise to bring double the mochi.
Hi, everybody. My name is Amanda Shanahan, and I'm the other co-president of the Portland JACL. We are so happy to be here with everybody celebrating Mochitsuki, although I can't wait to get back to pounding mochi in person with everybody. Now I'm going to hand it over to Sachi Kaneko, a Portland JACL board member, spoken word artist, and short story writer. Sachi contributes so much to our community as a JACL board member and has been the key person behind the JACL community calendar the past couple of years. She is a strong social justice advocate, and she's also applying for medical school this summer. Take it away, Sachi.
Thank you so much, Chris and Amanda. It's been an honor serving both of you on the board this year. Before we start our panel, I want to open with a land acknowledgement. If you are like me and currently in Portland, we are in the traditional territory of the Clackamas and Cowlitz tribes. I recognize and thank these tribes for their protection of the land from the past and into the current day. As a colonizer, I recognize that I am on stolen lands, and I stand in solidarity with the Indigenous communities so that they may continue to practice their cultures and preserve their communities as I am able to. I encourage all audience members to educate themselves on the traditional lands they reside on. Thank you. So today, I'm really excited to introduce 3 Asian American artists, activists, who inspire me not only with their artistry, but with their kindness, intelligence, and commitment to social justice. Since I don't think I could do the introductions justice myself, I want to turn it over to each individual to introduce themselves. Elena, since everyone here has met you already, would you like to start? Can you share a little bit about who you are, your work as an artist, and your relationship to social justice?
Sure. Thanks so much. Thank you all for having me today. And it's such an honor to be on this panel with these amazing artists, yourself included, Sachi. Yeah, just a quick little bit about myself. I was, as I said in the videos, born and raised in East Tennessee. My parents are immigrants from Korea, and my trajectory is I grew up playing classical violin, and when I went to college, I took a little bit of a hiatus from that because I got really interested in public health, which then went into community development, and then went into urban policy. And I spent a couple of years in college getting really deep into that world. And then I moved to New York. And when I moved to New York, I realized that I missed music a lot. And it had never really crossed my mind before to combine these interests that I had in social justice and American history and urban policy with music and the arts. It just, I don't know, just never found that intersection until I moved to New York City. And I came here originally for a master's degree in urban policy, but then I started playing music again just because I missed music and I wanted to get back into it. And 2 things happened is I met 2 colleagues of mine who were very similar to me, had grown up playing music their whole lives, and had also done a lot of work in education and a lot of work in community development and social justice. And they started an organization together designing collaborative music making projects, which just started with one workshop in a high school classroom in the Bronx that didn't have any arts programming. And my colleague Chris went into that classroom and just said, let's make some music together and let's use it as a way to just talk about what's going on in our lives and to encourage creative expression. And I saw my friends doing this, and I was really interested in what they were doing and using music this way, because one thing that was always missing for me was connecting with people, really, connecting with community through the art making. In the classical training, I was just kind of learning how to play these concertos, and I was usually by myself in a room doing that. And I didn't feel like that connection. And I was like, this is what I was missing with the music. That happened. And then the other thing that happened that was important is I met the family music artist named Dan Zanes. And I didn't know this was even a genre of music, that family music was a genre in the United States. But I played my first show with him without really knowing what I was getting into. And it was just playing Americana folk fiddle music for a group of screaming 3 to 7-year-olds and their parents. And it was the most fun I've ever had playing music, and also the most meaningful experience I ever had playing music, because again, it connected me with people again in a way that I hadn't done before with my music making. So those 2 things combined, and it just set me off on this path to what I'm doing now, which is working with Found Nation, designing collaborative music making projects and playing music for families, which are the 2 kind of main things in my life. So I'm going to end there because I think that's probably enough for now, but yeah.
And I just want to add that Elena has done a lot of like really incredible performances from Carnegie Hall to Lincoln Center, to the Melbourne International Arts Festival, and is just a really impressive artist from all the instruments that she plays and all the work that she does in the outdoor community. All right, who wants to go next?
I can go.
Don't everybody right?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Amaya Okamoto. I'm born in New York City, but actually raised for majority of my life in Portland, Oregon. I'm an artist, organizer, and educator, also still figuring that out. I am a full-time student, but usually I spend my time mostly post-COVID, pre-COVID, hopefully post-COVID, splitting my time between Portland, Boston, and New York City. So a lot of my art has to do with, social practice, which I'm still figuring out what art will look like for my entire life. But my identity is very much within like social practice art, just kind of using creativity as a force for social change, and trying to understand how we can use art to kind of inspire social progress. So I am kind of make a lot of different artworks for social justice organizations or work in memorialization. Yeah, what else? I'm trying to keep this intro short, but I guess like my kind of beginning baby steps within doing art for social justice, kind of in the real world, was partnering with Don't Shoot Portland my sophomore year of high school in 2016. And I've kind of been the evolving artist in residence working with Professor Rayford since then. So it's now 2021. So I think that I'm really excited to see how the world kind of evolves and understanding how we can use art for a force for good. Otherwise, I'm a full-time college student in Boston studying sociology and creating art as much as possible.
Thank you. And I just want to add, like, this is a powerful young person. I just remember hearing about you a couple years ago, and everyone was like, she's in high school. She's in high school and she's like doing this really incredible work. Like, so if you have a chance, like, please check her out. Her artwork is incredible. Just totally blew me away. So
thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Joe, you're up.
Yeah. And I'll also add Amaya's recent post on Instagram really inspired me. I think there were a lot of kind of art philosophies that she thinks about and posts about, and one of them was about consistency and also frequency of creation as opposed to kind of the paralysis of perfection. And so that was really inspiring for me. And I remember reading that being like, yeah, thank you. Like, I'm gonna do this. Yeah. My name is Joe Kai. I'm a violinist looper, storyteller, and other stuffs. He based here in Portland, Oregon. I was born in Korea, moved to the US when I was 6. And I think around 4th grade, I started playing violin, much in the classical tradition, like Elena was sharing. And it wasn't until high school that I think I really started to broaden my horizons of what music that I was interested in. So whether it was joining vocal jazz, whether it was burning, ripped CDs off of Napster of like underground socially conscious hip hop. It was yeah, I quickly kind of grew out of that particular mold. When I never thought that I could be a musician. I never thought that the creative profession was available for me, because my parents had sacrificed so much and they lacked a lot of security and stability. And so, when I was able to go to college, it was like music is very much a hobby. Also, if I was going to be a musician, I think from my parents' point of view, it was like, you have to go to Juilliard and be the next Sarah Chang, or else it's not worth it. Like, why do what you're doing? And so, yeah, I quickly found myself out of that. And in college, I found myself studying Black music, Black art, and how it was so impactful in shaping a whole community and identity that stood outside of kind of the dominant majority. So it was really inspiring for me to study that, to study those musicians and those art forms, but I did it at a distance. And so, after graduating, I taught high school English and high school history for a while. And then I was applying for graduate schools, and I was writing, to ethnomusicology programs, being like, I'm going to study music written by or created by Asian Americans for the purpose of social justice and identity creation. And then I realized I was just trying to be my dad, who is a history professor. And rather than sitting in a library studying, analyzing culture, I wanted to create that culture. And so, I made a pretty drastic turn, and became an independent musician in 2013. So, yeah, that's what I do today, and my immigrant story really plays a big part of my performances, and generally what I ended up talking about.
Thanks, Joe. And Joe talks about, yeah, I had to be going to Juilliard, but just to out you a little bit, Joe went to Yale and studied music and culture. So he wasn't going, he was you were doing the Asian American like drive. And I will say though that I met Joe a couple years ago at another art festival, and every time I talk to him, he just drops gems. Like besides his music, which totally like, I always get like that emotional experience. I think the last time we talked, he told me that joy lived in the crevice of sorrow, lived next to sorrow. I still read that and like my like heart does this like yeah, Joe's an incredible artist and a wonderful person to have in this Portland community. So yeah, you've met our panelists, and now we're gonna test their creative skills to start us out. So I'm everyone's cringing.
A test.
So it's a test. Yeah, you're gonna be
We
graded.
can do that.
We can do this. We can do this.
We're artists.
I mean, it's like, oh yeah, school stuff, test, got it, all over it. So we're gonna write a haiku, and I encourage anyone in the audience to participate. All you need is a pen and some paper. And a haiku is, for those of you who don't know, it's like a traditional Japanese poetry style. It's super short. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to write this. And a haiku, so it's a 3-line poem written in a 5-7-5 syllable count. So the first line is 5 syllables, second is 7 syllables, and the last line is 5 syllables. So you're gonna see us all like counting for that 2 minutes. The one rule is that a certain word provided by me or the audience, this is your chance to chime in, needs to be incorporated into the poem. So audience, I wanna open it up to you if you can type it in the chat box. Give us one word like mochi or ume or ox that we have to use in our poem. And that will be our word. So let's see if we can, wait a second.
A 5-syllabic word, a 5-syllable word.
That'll have to be long. Give us less to write. I will participate too. I will put myself up on this.
Capitalistic.
Is that 5? I have to count. Going straight in.
I take it back. I take back the suggestions.
I don't know. If we don't get anyone, we might have to go with capitalistic. Mochi from the audience. All right. Mochi. We're getting a lot of mochi. I'll let you guys choose too. Mochi or capitalistic? Kimono. Kimono would be hard.
Are we starting?
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I have to give
okay.
you the word first.
Okay.
Why don't we go with mochi? Even though it's like a kind of classic one, I feel like it's very in keeping with our theme. Sorry,
Beauty
strawberry. If you bonus points if you incorporate a word and then like another one from the chat. So okay.
Right.
I'm gonna give us 2 minutes. Ready, set, go. And audience, go ahead and participate too. About a minute left. It's stressful. Are you done? 30 seconds. Almost at the 10-second mark. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pens down or pencils, whatever you use. And audience members, go ahead and post if you participated, go ahead and post your haikus in the chat.
Yay!
We would love to see them, and we're all gonna. So we're gonna share our haikus. Who wants to start? I'm pretty sure Amaya's is gonna be like pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm not starting.
Fine, I'll go.
Okay, I got you. I am Mochi Cake, barefoot, boundless, becoming, eating more moon pies.
That was awesome.
Oh.
All the alliteration is so good.
Wow, that was nice.
All right. Mine is, sometimes I worry my kids won't eat mochi. No, Dad, I want more cheese.
Nice.
Cheesy mochi. You can always combine it. Do you want to go next, or is it my turn?
Go, it's up to you. I have two. I'm trying to decide which one to read.
Oh, perfect. You could read both, but I'll go, and then I'll give you a little extra time to decide.
Okay.
So oishi means delicious in Japanese. So mochi, oishi, kinako, azuki, yum. Beware, please don't choke. So
Nice.
if you don't know, old people aren't, well, if you are in like an elderly living place in Japan, they won't serve mochi because they're afraid of. Yeah, my aunt, my dad's aunt, she complains about all the time because New Year's, you're supposed to eat mochi, but they won't serve it because old people choke.
My mom reminds me that every New Year's.
Yeah, it's a thing. Someone
every New Year's, same fact.
You're like, I know this already.
Okay. I have one darker one. I don't mean any actual criticism by it, and then one lighter one. The lighter one is they end the same. A snow is falling, and I wonder what to eat. Strawberry mochi. And then the darker one is capitalistic trends are affecting my mouth. Strawberry mochi.
I love it.
Yes.
So good. And you got the bonus points. So like the multiple strawberry mochi, like, yeah, I'm super into it. And you guys definitely check out the chat. There's some really good ones. Pretty cute. Mochi, mochachi, soft and cuddly. Yeah. The yeah is extra syllables. That's perfect.
I was really debating just going like mochi.
You cannot do that.
Mochi mo.
Mochi ball.
I think we've got someone's new single. Like, gotta get a beat to it.
I'm coming for you, Joe.
Mochi, more problems.
Mochi,
yeah. Mochi, more problems.
That is a dad joke. You are living up to your new role. Joe, how old are your children now?
They'll be 2 in May. Twins.
Okay, so
yeah.
Not so new, but Yeah, they're pretty cute. Okay, so let's get into the meat of the matter. So for our panel, we talked about this already, but just for the audience, I want to talk about the idea of art as a kind of alchemy or a transformer or a transformation. It's the new year. We are at Mochitsuki, which is the process of turning grains of rice into mochi. And for me, as a Japanese American, art was a way that I was able to express things that I thought were ugly or that some things that no one would want to listen to and turn them into something beautiful. And the more I transformed sort of my inner life and projected it outwards through my art, the more I wanted to see that transformation take place in reality, which is what led me to my passion for social justice. Amaya, I want to start with you. As you've described yourself as a social practicing artist, and that being how you marry art with activism. How did that come about, and how did you get started with that?
I will say first and foremost, I've had some amazing mentors in the art world, quote unquote, correct me when I say I'm a social practice artist. And they say, okay, Amanda, say you're an artist. Don't put yourself in a box. You are 20 years old. You do, so I appreciate that. But I do like the term social practice artist, which is, I think, a relatively new label for creatives who are kind of creating art for social change. And I think that when I think about the art that I feel most drawn to, or the art that I feel has is most guiding for me right now in terms of like figuring out what, you know, the role of artists in the world right now. But historically, it's, you know, artists are the truth tellers and the truth seekers, right? In general, we're the ones who are creating and dreaming of our future, or illustrating our current times. So for me, when it comes to social practice art, it's more about like, I'm really trying to answer that question about like, what is the role of art? And I think that the role of people is like, yes, life is a journey, experience life, but it's like, we're all here to like make things better. And that's like the simplest terms. Like, that's like what I've come up with in my 20 years of life, right? It's like we're all here to like try and help each other and like make this whole experience as good as it can be for everyone else. So with social practice art, a lot of it is like trying to create art that has some sort of call to action or has some sort of mission. And for me, that's, you know, trying to get people together and build more understanding. I feel like sometimes I speak very poetically when I talk about art, so hopefully this makes sense. But how that has manifested for me in the past is, you know, creating art settings where I can create art or give a set of directions for 10 people, 15 people, 20 people, 500 people to kind of collaborate and create something. And yeah, I think that is kind of like my best way of kind of understanding social practice art, is trying to use art as some sort of tool for some hopeful future.
That's awesome. Yeah, right. Snaps that like art as artists as what, truth speakers and transformers, like so good. And I feel like both you, Elena, and Joe, you've both done a lot of that in your art as well, of like trying to speak truth and also bind community. Would either of you like to speak on that a little bit more?
Joe?
I'm just thinking of that quote, art
Okay.
is for the purpose of, what is it, to make the revolution irresistible? Is that,
Yeah.
am I quoting that correctly?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite quotes by American author Toni Cade Bambara, but I discovered it actually from a Mexican American artist in Chicago at the Policy Link Summit in like 2017. So I had heard it a couple times, and it just became this like guiding. A year into kind of realizing that like maybe art is my calling. You know, I was in high school and I'm still, you know, I'm Asian American, so I was like, I'm going to college, I'm going to study. But I heard this quote, and it was the role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. And I did not completely know what that meant, but I've kind of like kept written it on what's it called, post-it notes, and just carried them around everywhere I go, kind of to stay solid, because I think that is what we can do.
Well, yeah, like policy is not why I change behavior. You know, I'm in my early to mid 30s now, and you know, I change behavior because loved ones call me out or encourage me to do so, or I feel something, right, very deep in my core that inspires me to change my behavior. And whether it's climate change or social injustice in all of the different forms, policy and reading stats is one thing, but to really feel it in its core, I feel like is another thing. And for family audiences too, right, Elena? Like the being able to reach, like, you're not going to win over third graders by giving them stats about climate change.
Right.
Right.
Are you looking for affirmation? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I guess I'm curious about your thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess my approach is a little bit, well, it's not different, but I always just think like my guiding force and everything, and whether it's kids or adults or whatever, is that I mean, I think it's so important for everybody's stories is a different lens and to see the world that we're living in, the human experience, and it's just so important to have as many of those lenses, have as many of those voices as possible. That can only add to our collective kind of humanity and understanding of one another. And so that to me is a guiding force of like, I want to hear, not just hear like, the facts of your life, or like the facts of our history or the politics of our history, but the personal story of your life and the emotion of your life. And that I think adds so much to a conversation. And so like, I think for me it maybe is a little bit less about trying to affect and change minds as it is trying to encourage as many different lenses to view what we're all going through, here on this earth as possible. And in doing that, like trying to encourage some dialogue and communication to understand where we're each coming from, and then bringing important issues into that kind of arena, I guess.
For sure. And like when you say that, it makes me think about how so much we have, like in history books, these minority experiences or these like oppressive instances, they take up a line, 2 lines, right? And then we read a million years on the Revolutionary War, like the Civil War, things like that. And yet the way that these communities experience trauma, experience oppression, it resonates through like years. And so I think it's only, yeah, exactly. So the only way you can really communicate that, or another way to communicate it, is through an artistic perspective.
Yeah.
And and so is there a way that all of you try to express that in a way that, because I think we talked about this last time, Joe, where I pointed out like a lot of your music is really happy, and yet you have a very sort of like this kind of Buddhist-y, philosophical, like pain and suffering and joy and
yeah,
how
I
to
love
balance
talking to
these
Joe.
things. Yeah,
I love talking
So
to
good.
Joe. I always feel so much more thoughtful after I talk to Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can only speak your own story, right? And I mean, one of the things that, I mean, listening to Elena talk, it's, you can only do so much, like, even if it's through art or music, getting on a soapbox and telling people to change it's not effective. And it's also not why I got into art. I got into art because I had things that I wanted to share about myself and my own story, and also things I wanted to process about myself that I was never able to do. And so having a medium like art is a way for me to not only tell my story, but before even telling my story, to understand my own story. And because that story is that of an immigrant, and of a child who grew up relatively poor, but with a lot of educational privilege, there's it's a unique narrative because everyone is a unique person. Yeah, I didn't answer your question, just a thought.
I do want to mention something I think that is very interesting is I know Joe has a history of being a high school teacher, and Elena is like within education. I myself, like, it's not in my bio anymore, but evolving bio, but I used to heavily identify as an educator, and one of my most joyful parts of my art practice is that I love teaching workshops, and I currently am for hire for like art workshops. But when I was in high school, I thought I was going to be like, my dream was to be a U.S. history teacher. My U.S. history teacher, Patrick Walsh, completely changed my life. And he said, you know, I'm not here to give you a bunch of memorized facts. I'm here to create informed voters. And that really, like, the first day of class, and from then on I was like, I'm going to be a history teacher and I'm going to create informed voters. And when Joe was introducing himself, and what do you say, you said like, I realized I wanted to not just be my dad and record history, but like create history, as per se, or like create things in the world. I really related to that, which I think is very interesting. And I think teachers are so necessary, right? Like, I have so many teachers who've changed my life. And yeah, but when I graduated high school, I picked up everything, and within a month I sold a bunch of art, had a couple $1,000s in my bank account, and I moved to New York City in Brooklyn. And I volunteered with AmeriCorps for 6 months, and I taught 8th grade math at 18, which is maybe not a good idea. Like, don't teach 8th graders when you're 18. It does not make you have no authority. And I learned very quickly that I'm not cut out. I don't have the mental stamina and patience to be an educator for teenagers. I learned that very quickly. But I do think that it's interesting that we all, that every artist who I have talked to who has kind of this, like, not just their own personal identity, but this like need to have some sort of call to action or have some sort of engagement with like the greater world or some sort of bigger calling per se. Most of the artists that I talk to, especially like all three of us, have a deep interest in history and education. And whether that's we want to be educators in the world with our art, or quite literally in the classroom, or we just have our own interest in history and ancestral blood, right, and storytelling. I think that's really interesting, because I think that answer of like what is combining art and social justice, I think it's like everyone's journey of like figuring out how to like merge different storylines and generations.
Yeah, a friend of mine who is an artist said that that it really struck me what I just said. I just kind of restated it, but like that, you know, that they're exploring the exploration of yourself and your own story is such a you know, key core piece of that. And they were saying that, you know, when we learn about our history, when we learn about where we come from, and also where we learn about the context of where we are now, it has to be more than about the facts of like what happened when, and of like the politics of what happened when, and like how, you know, that it has to be about these like human stories in order for there to be a real like grasp of that. And I think that speaks to both, you know, Joe, what you said about learning about yourself. The more you learn about yourself, the more you can share with other people, and then also to that aspect of history. And I mean, speaking of education, I heard a brilliant quote by a man named Carlton Turner, who's in Mississippi doing really local action work. He's a brilliant artist also, but he said something about education of trying to transfer the goal of education from being to create a strong workforce to being to create people who want to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And like, you know, that kind of shift in our mentality of what it means to educate. I think a lot of that is related to encouraging personal exploration and storytelling, and encouraging that, you know, like, look at who you are, where you are, and what the context of like your story is.
Especially considering that people who looked like us I didn't have examples of Asian American artists to look up to see, you know, echoes of my own story. You know, yeah, I just didn't have that. So even if, you know, even if we weren't being explicitly social justice in our creation, I think somebody else, I forget who I was talking with, but they were saying like us creating is in and of itself an act of revolution and
Yeah.
an act of social justice, because, you know, as Elena was saying, let's add more of these perspectives. And when your perspective hasn't existed, right, as a lens to view the world, then the more that we can even create a lens in and of itself makes this world a better place.
Yeah, there are so many layers to that, whether it's like choosing creativity. I identify as like Asian American, and like I'm very lucky to come from a family where, you know, I was always like encouraged to follow my passions and clearly my interests. But also there's a layer of like, if you're gonna do it well, right? So there's so many layers to that. But yeah, but also like, even, who are the Asian activists, right? What does it mean to be an activist, which is a label that's tossed around so much nowadays? What does it mean to, be fighting for social good, and how do we draw the line to a point where like you are doing something in social justice that is significant, right? Yeah, I think there's so many layers to, being a person of color, being Asian, and creating art, and especially in a place like Portland, Oregon, right? The baseline to do something radical or political is like so low.
And we're going to need to be winding down now, but I do want to touch on that because we're talking a lot about identity. I want to touch on the fact that, hey, we're all these East, specifically East Asian Americans on this panel. So how did that identity correspond to your art specifically? Like how, and to sort of close off, to any aspiring Asian American artists out there, like what would you say to them? And we are winding up, so maybe keep it a little more brief, but I know it's like a big thing. It's a big ask, I'm aware, but do your best, and we're gonna go over a little bit just to let people know, but I would really like to end with that.
I mean, I'll just say something briefly about, what we've been talking about with just learning about our own identity and stories, but there's also kind of, I don't really have a fully formed thought here, but just something to this balance of being in solidarity with an identity and also not falling into a monolithic idea of that. And that is a growth process, it is like there's strength and there is commonality and there is like power in identity. And then there's also that it's taking that power and bringing it to independence and who you are, like having your own story within that, and breaking the idea of monolith, and being able to balance these things is something that I think everybody will navigate in their artistic lives for their entire lives. So I don't have much more deepness to go there, but it's just something to bring up.
I guess another layer to add on to that, all of what Elena said. I think another layer is also relative privilege. I think East Asians, obviously the model minority myth is a myth, and it's also an oppressive myth at that. But I think compared to, like our Hmong brothers and sisters, or our Southeast Asians, or we aren't a monolith, and I think as far as who East Asian Americans are perceived to be in the American imagination, there is some level of relative privilege, and I think being cognizant of that, and working to build the coalitions. Is that me? I hope that's not me. Build coalition, and expand it within that identity of what it means to be Asian American. I think it's an important task that we have to undergo.
Yeah, I guess I'll end on top of what Joe was saying. Is absolutely, but I was just thinking about like the really cheesy like Pinterest board quote, like just like dare to be different, like it's so cheesy, but I feel like whenever I'm scared to do something or scared to speak out, especially because of my stature or how I look, I would just like tell myself like I dare you, right? Like I dare you to do it. I dare you, and that always helps push me over the edge. Yeah, right. Yeah, art is really, really hard. I wish we had more time to talk about the actual art that we're making, but Sachi, when you mentioned like a lot of Joe's music is really happy, I think for me a lot of Elena's music is like also very happy, and for all of my art is about using bright colors, right? And I think that I would leave this conversation just like with encouraging people who are especially East Asian who are making art to just like think a lot about hope and legacy. How I think a lot of artists right now is like we need positive art, and just because dark things are happening in the world doesn't mean that we need to like be making dark things, because we all really need to be hopeful. And as an Asian American person growing up where I did not see people who looked like me, I never made art about myself. And it isn't until I went to college and had professors be like, okay, but where are you in this, right? Everything you're making is a self-portrait, but like, where are you? I think there's not enough art by, Asian American people that is about our own story. So I dare you. I dare you
Nice.
to write about yourself.
Yeah.
It's great.
No, and that's like, I think that's perfect with what we're talking about with alchemy. It's like turning these situations that can feel really hopeless and hopeless in the moment and making something out of it that's hopeful, that can uplift people and spur them towards action, because we really do have a lot of power as a collective, as a community. It's just making sure we break out of those traditional roles of what we're seen as, sort of like what Elena was talking about, and learning how to reimagine ourselves, not only as, me as a Japanese American, but as an Asian American. So am I including the South Asian community? Am I including the Southeast Asian community? Like being mindful of my light skin in those spaces and what that means. So so I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for everyone for joining. Thank you to our panelists and all the audience members. I hope you came away from this discussion feeling inspired and ready to do some of your own alchemy. As Amaya-chan said. Yeah, as she says, I dare you. So, let us know what you end up doing. So I'll now turn it back to Alton for some announcements and to close out with Mochitsuki. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you so very much to all of our amazing panelists. Thank you for taking the time to share with us your passion and your inspirations with all of us. Well, that's it for our show for today. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. And I would like to thank again Uwajimaya and all of our sponsors. I'd also like to acknowledge all of our community groups, volunteers, and vendors who made this virtual event and broadcast possible. Special thanks go to the Mochitsuki Planning Committee for putting in long hours, starting way back in August. And special recognition goes to our event coordinator, Lisa Uzuen, and committee members, Win, Tracy, Suwako, Dan, Allegra, Lexi, Chris, Jillian, Connie, Charles, Kendall, Koichi, and Catherine. Finally, this broadcast would not have been possible without the technical help of Audrey too. Oh, and by the way, stick around for a special message from Lisa coming right up. Well, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the program. Thank you for inviting us into your home and spending this time with us. Stay safe and have a fantastic Year of the Ox. See you next year. Akemashite omedetou gozaimasu. Happy New Year.
Hi, my name is Lisa Uznoi, and on behalf of the presenting organizations, thank you all for joining us for our 25th anniversary and watching from, it seems, all over the world. Thank you, General Counsel, for your greeting, to our always awesome MC, Alton, and to Elena and friends for bringing us New Year songs from 3 countries. Valerie, we miss you, but know your spirit carries on within us with Mochitsuki. We know it was a crazy ask, but you made it happen. Thank you to our performers and community partners for your fun, creative, and educational videos that filled up an entire month. Without ticket sales this year, we were in a bit of a pinch, so our deepest gratitude goes out to our sponsors who have been so generous and supportive. And Wesley and Joe, thank you so much for having us on your TV news. And last but not least, thank you to the 14 hardworking individuals on the Mochitsuki Planning Committee and your family and friends, who way back in August, instead of giving up or taking a year off, stepped up and found a way to bring Mochitsuki to our community once again. None of us knew how to run a virtual event. For many of us and many of our community partners, this was our first time video making. But through the process of fumbling our way through uncharted waters, we realized, like Kimi, the little girl in the Thank You Very Mochi story, that this is what Mochitsuki is all about: community and family. Celebrating life, appreciating, supporting, encouraging each other, and renewing hope. We are so grateful we were able to grow our Mochitsuki family to include all of you. So, thank you. I would like to leave you with one of my favorite sayings. Every day is a new day. Live each day with the same happy heart you have on New Year's Day. When the sun sets, think that it is the last day of the year. When the sun rises, think that it is New Year's Day. If you are happy every day, there will be no discord in the family. If you ever forget this, come back and watch some of our videos. They'll be available on our website, at least till the end of the year. Once again, thank you, and we look forward to seeing all of you once again in 2022.